In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Delta Squad from the Toys R Us exclusive pack in the Shadow Darkside line around 2010 and 11. So I have showed off Delta Squad quite a few times on the channel before. I have done reviews for all the Black Series action figures of them, and I have showed these guys off in a diorama before, particularly the ARC Troopers basically doing a truce with the Republic Commandos. And they've showed up in a couple other videos here and there, but I have yet to do a dedicated review just for the 3 3/4 inch versions of Delta Squad. And I've been holding off on this video for a long time now because the set here is not complete. I have been missing the Geonosian Warrior. I'll talk a little bit more in a bit about how I acquired the 4 Commandos here. But I've been missing the Geonosian Warrior, so I'm going to be having Sunfek fill in for that particular Geonosian. And from what I can gather, it's very close to Sunfek. I think the mold is, for the most part, just a retool. The only difference with the Geonosian Warrior that comes with this set is the paint apps, and then maybe there's a little bit more articulation, but other than that, it's basically the same exact thing. And that Geonosian Warrior was also retooled from the Target exclusive 2-packs for Geonosis back around 2009 and 10. That was just carried forward into this. Usually when I do reviews, I like to try and do the complete set. And in most cases, I have done that. There is another set that I'm probably going to be doing that here very soon. And that's the Republic Elite Forces set. There's 2 packs of those. And I have both sets almost complete. I'm just missing a few more. But once I do complete having those sets, which I hope is very soon, I'll be sure to do the reviews for those. But at this time, I have tried shopping around for the Geonosian Warrior that comes with the set every now and then. And it's actually very hard to find. And that's because he's so similar to so many of the other Geonosians that have been released over the years that it's hard to distinguish if it's the correct one or not. And from my understanding, there is just ever so slightly some differences with the particular one that's released with this set. And a lot of sellers on eBay are not truly that familiar with the action figures that actually come with the set, so they might advertise it as a loose set and it's not the actual one that comes with it. So something to be careful of. So I just haven't actually gotten the Geonosian Warrior at this point, and I'm not sure when that's going to happen. And I've been really wanting to get the Delta Squad review on the channel for a long time now, so I thought, I'll just review it as is for now, and then at some point in the future I can always do a second follow-up video showing the complete set. And I think that'll be perfectly fine. And I can't imagine too many people will be upset with me doing 2 reviews of Delta Squad. They are fan favorites. I'm a big fan of the Republic Commandos. I did not actually play the Republic Commando video game until 2010. I kept up with it during the time of its release and over the 5 years before I decided to play it myself. But since then, I have beat it about 3 or 4 times, and it is one of my favorite Star Wars games. It's just some very interesting characters, and it's a very action-packed game. I mean, I really wish they make a Republic Commando film. Maybe not in today's climate for Lucasfilm and Disney, but at one time I would have wanted a Republic Commando film. And I think a lot of people would as well. So as I mentioned, this set was a Toys R Us exclusive, but this was actually not the first 3 3/4 inch action figures of Delta Squad. That was actually back in 2006, which was a set of the 4 of them, and then plus 3 Geonosian Warriors instead of just 1. And that set is basically reutilizing the mold of the single release of Scorch here, which I'll show off again more in a little bit. I do have an individual review for the Scorch on the channel. Would recommend checking that out. And then 5 years later, we got this set. I do recall seeing it at Toys R Us back around 2011 and 12. Unfortunately, I passed up on it at the time. It was one of those scenarios where you look at it and it's like, oh wow, that's really cool, I'll get it some other time. And then you walk away, you don't get it, and then of course they're out of stores at this point, and then time goes on. And it took me until 2017 to finally get this set. I actually got the 4 Commandos here from a guy in Australia, and I got it for a good price. I think I only paid about the equivalent of 20 USD for each of these, which is really not a bad deal at all. At least I didn't think it was, especially since the set was already out of production and very hard to find at this point. So $20 loose for each of them. Even though it was not a complete set, the 4 Commandos here are complete by themselves. I figure it was a good enough deal at the time, and I'm glad I got them. So let's just take a closer look at each of these. So we have Scorch here. He's the heavy weapons expert of the 4. One more thing I'll mention is there are several different Republic Commando squads. If you're not too familiar with them, there's also Omega Squad, and I think they pretty much go through the whole Greek alphabet. There's Alpha Squad, Beta Squad, Gamma Squad. I don't know if they got through each and every single one of them. I don't think they did, but basically all the Republic Commando squads are named after Greek letters, and there's usually anywhere between 4 to 8, I think, per squad. But just for Delta Squad here, it's just the 4 of them. But anyway, Scorch, heavy weapons expert, kind of the jokester of the group. He likes to crack a lot of jokes while they're in the middle of some heated situations. Then we have Fixer here. He is the technical expert of the group. He's really good with computers and hacking and things like that. Then we have Boss. It's in the name. He's the leader of Delta Squad. And then we have Sev here, which is basically the marksman of the group. If you need to shoot a target from a far distance, Sev is the guy you go to. So let's just take a closer look at Scorch here. So I really like how this action figure turned out. There are a couple things I wish he had with him, but for the most part, it's a really good interpretation of Scorch. I like how the black paint looks on him. It kind of has a little bit of a gloss to it. It's very nice. And he does have a lot of weathering on him, which I think turned out nice. The yellow looks really good as well. So between the 4 Commandos here, they're mostly a retool of the Feast Grata action figure from the Commandos Evolution pack, released around 2009 or 10, which I do have that pack reviewed on the channel. So if you have a Feast Grata in your collection, Delta Squad here basically utilizes a lot of those parts, but they did update the articulation. And speaking of articulation, all 4 have the same exact articulation, so I'll just talk about it for Scorch here. It does have a ball joint in the neck. It's kind of stiff on mine, but if you work with it, he has a pretty good range of motion. All 4 of them do. They do have hinged shoulders, which are kind of restricted because of the shoulder pads there, but if you work with it, and that's about the most you can really do. You do have hinge at the elbow, then swivel wrists. You do have a joint at the torso, then swivel hips, then hinge knees and hinged ankles. Super articulation at the time. I'm sure a lot of people would like to have the barbell hips at this point. That's perfectly understandable. I think these action figures would benefit from that. Other than that, I think the articulation is pretty much perfect at this point. So the one thing, or maybe two things, I wish were updated with Scorch here is, for one, he's missing the extra ammo that's usually strapped to his leg. They did include it on the 2006 Scorch, but for some reason they didn't do it with this action figure. Even the Black Series one has it. I like both these interpretations of Scorch. The only thing that's I could potentially say is a drawback for this one is the lack of articulation, but it's a very nicely sculpted action figure as well. I'm glad I have both of these. In terms of weapons and accessories, he does have a unique rifle with him. This is supposed to be more of an anti-armor one that they use in the game. Very nicely sculpted. And they're a little bit better proportion to these figures compared to the Black Series ones. In fact, the rifles that come with the Black Series versions of Delta Squad are really not a whole lot bigger than the rifles here. They'll have the blue visor, which looks good. We've seen in the video games and in the TV shows, like the Bad Batch, for instance, where that blue visor is lit up. They all do have a removable backpack, which is unique for most, or two of them at least. Scorch has a unique one here, and it does fit securely on his back. So that's Scorch. Next we'll take a look at Fixer. Which is actually my personal favorite Commando of the four. Very technical. I suppose he has a little bit more of a dry personality compared to the other three. But he's very to the point, stick to business. And he does throw in the occasional joke, which I think is neat. And plus I really like the green color scheme he has. It's very nice. There is some weathering packed into him as well. Not quite as much as Scorch, but that's alright. Most of the weathering's on his chest there. Lots of green splashed on him. They do not come with the droid sniper rifles here. I just have between him and Sev equipped with them because I think they look better like that. Especially Sev, because that's the type of rifle he'd be using anyway. It does have a unique backpack, which basically has this bar on it. It's the main difference. Articulation's the same, the weapons are the same. All three of these, or the rest of the three Commandos, have the same blaster, I think. Looks like it. This is basically the standard Republic Commando blaster. You got the magazine right there. a very nice rifle. Does have a little bit of a carbon look to it. It does fit securely in his hands. And as you can see, you can get them to hold it with two hands. Fixer does have the 2 dots here. Looks like Boss has 3 or 4. Sev doesn't have any, and then Scorch doesn't have any. So that's Republic Commando Scorch. Next we'll bring out Boss. A very nice orange color scheme. Lots of weathering on him as well. For his backpack, he has the more basic one between the 4. It is reutilized for Sev. And this hole here is for this extra ammo, I assume, that Sev carries. My Boss does not have that. And if you've never played Republic Commando, you do play as Boss through the entire game. Really like the helmet design the Commandos have. It's kind of a combination of Phase 1 and Phase 2 almost. And then it's just a slightly different shape. Definitely much more closer to Phase 1, but you can just kind of see it a little bit. And it looks like he has the 4 dots here. Not sure what the meaning behind that is. He does have the same blaster as Fixer. And last but not least, we have Sev. So Sev has a very interesting armor design. It's actually, he wears the all-white armor, but what he does is he splashes it in Geonosian blood. And I think this action figure captures it the best out of all the samples of Sev that Hasbro has made. You have the 2006 version with the set, this one, and then the Black Series one. And definitely on the Black Series action figure, it looks a lot more painted on him, while this, it looks like he took a bath basically in Geonosian blood. And it's darker in color, which I think is more accurate. Of course, Geonosians are not like people, but usually if blood's been splattered, and as it dries up, it's going to get a little bit darker in color. And that's reflected on here. I think on the 2006 version, it's a little more lighter as well. They did a really nice job with this. Definitely the best Sev that they've made. Of course, at this point, we still don't know what his ultimate fate is. The end of the video game. I suppose at this point it doesn't really matter talking about it since it is almost a 20-year-old game. He does go missing in action, and there was never any EU stories or anything in the Disney universe at this time that really specifies what happens to him. So he could be alive, maybe he's not alive. Might not ever know at this point. They didn't really splatter any of the blood on his back here. Left that mostly clean, except for his bottom. And then, yeah, this is the same pack for Boss, just repainted. And then it has this extra piece here, which I think is supposed to be ammo. Maybe it's not, maybe it's some type of sensor. And that can unplug from his pack. If you wanted to give it to Boss, I suppose you could do that. But it's just not an accessory that he normally has. It doesn't really look right with it. And then he does have the same rifle as well. Nice bit of weathering on him. I think the only thing that's different is some of them look a little more metallic than others. I think Boss has a little bit more of a matte finish on his, just ever so slightly. Yeah. Well, Sev, it's just slightly different. But that's Delta Squad. And we'll talk about Sunfac a little bit here. I did do an individual review of him a few months ago now. And as I mentioned, the Geonosian warrior that this set comes with is very similar to him, just from what I can tell of the pictures. The only thing that's different is the paint apps, maybe articulation. But the accessories, overall sculpt, just about the same exact thing. Probably has articulated wings as well. I'll still try to track down that action figure at some point. I have considered just buying an all-new set. I really would not mind having duplicates of Delta Squad at all, but we'll see how that turns out. It might not be anytime soon. And of course, the inclusion of some Geonosians with the Republic Commandos is meant to be like cannon fodder for them. Would have been nice to include like flame effects or anything of those sorts, or even like the knife that they have on their gauntlet, so you can reenact some scenes from the game there. I suppose we should be fortunate that we got Delta Squad at all in action figure form. But I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about this set. So would I recommend Delta Squad for your collection? I definitely would. If you're a big fan of clones, Republic Commando, even if you don't really know a whole lot about these guys, they're still just fun action figures to set up for dioramas and display, and they're very neat characters. As I mentioned, Republic Commando is one of my favorite games. It had a great music video to accompany it. The trailers are still fascinating to watch, even to this day. Get online every now and then and just watch the trailers. I think there's 2 or 3 of them that they made. It's very nice. Happy they're a part of my collection. I think it's an essential piece that I need, and I imagine is the same for many others as well. You can't really have a complete Star Wars action figure collection without having Delta Squad represented in it. At some point I might do a comparison video between the Black Series and 3 3/4 inch here, and then I mentioned I might potentially rebuy this set again just to complete it, and then I'll do another video for that. But I still might get the 2006 set at some point. I would like to try and complete all the Commandos that Hasbro has made, every single sample even, which I'm getting very close to having complete at this point. And in fact, I'll just bring out a couple other samples here. As I mentioned, Feast Garada. These guys are reutilizing a lot of the tooling from him. And then, of course, the other Scorch here. But we'll see how that plays out. It's not really anything I'm going to rush into. It's just shop around every now and then, and if I find a good deal, I'll take it. But I'm going to be very patient about it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Delta Squad, and happy to see them in action figure form. If Sideshow ever makes Hot Toys interpretations of them, I definitely will jump on that. There is Scorch at the time of this video, but he's based upon his appearance in the Bad Batch. But I would like a more Republic Commando interpretation of him, and that would include the ammo on the side of his leg and a few other small differences here and there. But I imagine that will happen at some point, since now we're up to 2 Commandos that have been made in Hot Toys. You have the Imperial Commando, and then now Bad Batch Scorch. So we'll see how all that plays out. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support, and check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.